one question that we've gotten recently from someone who hasn't gone on their first cruise yet is, what is a tender? They've heard people, including us, talk about tenders, and they didn't know what it was. I actually, just out of curiosity, I asked. I said, what do you think it is? They thought it was a special currency on the ship. And, to experienced cruisers, that's funny and it's cute. But from their point of view, it makes sense. If you haven't really been on a ship before, if you haven't been cruising before, you hear tender, you think like a payment method. That's a natural, organic thing that people could think. So here we are to try another Carnival Basics topic for you here. Explain what is a tender. So a tender is a smaller ship or boat that you take to get from the cruise ship to land in places where the cruise ship can't go right up against the land. There could be a couple of reasons. Maybe a dock or a wharf hasn't been built that the cruise ship can go to, or maybe the cruise ship goes so deep into the water it would run aground, or, like in the case of Belize, damage a protected coral reef if it were to get too close. So most sailings generally have at least one port that they go to that is tendered. It's just the way that it tends to go. No pun intended. I could do that all night. But the idea is that, it is the method by which you get to the shore. So, if you think of a Pirates of the Caribbean movie where the pirate ship gets close to the shore, then they get in the dinghy and they row, themselves to the shore, it's the modern day equivalent of that. And I love it. I love a tender ride. It gets you nice and close to the water. Sometimes they're pretty fast. You often get a pretty decent view depending on where you sit. You get some fresh, salt sea air. I like it. I think it's fun on its own. When I go to Catalina, I look forward to the tender. When I go to Belize, the tender is an attraction on its own as far as I'm concerned. The tenders are included because otherwise you would be stuck on the ship. So they don't cost extra to take these. And they just go from the ship to the shore and back again. That's basically what they're all about. And we have videos of most tenders out there. So if you're curious about what is the tender like in Grand Cayman, Belize, Catalina, we've got videos. You can go check them out and see exactly what kind of you're in store for. Because also some people who have motion sickness concerns, the tenders are often a rockier experience. They're not as large, and so they're not as stable as the cruise ships. So that's something to be aware of before you go. But I really like a tender. That's what they're all about. In terms of using the tender, generally the process is you might have to go get a sticker up on like Lido Deck or something, and then they'll call them out like zones. So sticker number 25, you can now go down, just so that it's not a whole cluster of people. And then after a certain point in the day, they normally stop using the tender sticker process because so few people want to leave the ship that you can just go down and walk onto something. If you are platinum or diamond, then you do have the option of getting a tender earlier without the sticker process. When you arrive in your cabin, you get a welcome letter for a platinum and diamond guest, and it will actually give you instructions to follow about how to get early access to the tender. So sometimes it's just like there's an hour window. Like in Catalina, the tenders are pretty frequent. So there's normally not much of a delay. So if you want to go right away, there's this hour window where you show up at a particular location and they escort you on to the tender, avoiding the wait. But other areas like Cabo San Lucas, where the tendering is a little slower and it can get a little backed up, they'll normally have a meeting location for most of the day you can go to get accelerated tender service. So that's just how that works.